So get the test.
Get the test.
Get the test. Each year, over 40 million Americans are diagnosed with chronic or severe hearing loss.
40 million Americans
40
are diagnosed
million
with
Americans each year are diagnosed.
40 million.
That makes hearing disorders the third largest epidemic in the country.
The numbers are staggering.
The Alliance for Hearing Preservation is a community of professionals committed to bringing awareness about hearing loss to our society.
Together
we can make a difference.
We hear ya.
We hear you.
Hearing loss does not discriminate.
So take the test.
So get the test.
Get the test.
Contact the Alliance for Hearing Preservation today.
We can make a difference.
Losing your hearing is a lot more painful than you think. Hearing loss feels like you're not really there. Feels like you're not really part of the world. It took me a while to ask for help. I think I was just too afraid to admit that I was going deaf, that I was getting old. I thought maybe if I waited long enough, it'll fix itself.
Those with mild hearing loss are twice as likely to develop dementia, and the risk increases with the severity of the hearing loss. Today, over 40 million Americans are suffering from hearing disorders, making hearing loss the third largest health issue in the country. The Long Island Alliance for Hearing Preservation is ready to help anyone suffering from hearing loss with free resources, screenings, and private counselors to bring you the right help. You don't have to suffer in silence anymore.
I found the right help that I needed, and before you know it, I'm part of the world again.
Each year, over 40 million Americans are diagnosed with chronic or severe hearing loss. The numbers are staggering. Contact the Alliance for Hearing Preservation today. Together, we can make a difference.
Imagine what it would be like if one day the world suddenly got quiet. The great sounds that you've been used to hearing, sounds that you've taken for granted, are suddenly taken away. Imagine not hearing the birds, the wind, or the very sound of your own footsteps. Imagine not hearing laughter or music. Missing out on some of the most precious things in life, like the sound of your own family. To most of us, that's a very lonely feeling. It's a part of our lives that no one should be without. Hearing is a gift of life that brings us closer to the rest of the world. Today, with Island Better Hearing, we can have the gift of sound back in our lives again.
We all need better hearing.
Now, I have some hearing loss, and so quite naturally, I try to enforce that with the kids. I try to get them to start using hearing protection early. So we are here at Rock and Roll University. My name is Sly Gerald, and I'm the director here at Rock and Roll University. And we are very health and safety conscious as far as the hearing and the preservation of hearing in our young students. To play in a band, they have to agree to wear hearing protection. You guys gotta protect your hearing, or you're gonna get old like me. When you get to be my age, you're not gonna be able to hear anything. As a result of that, we have a bucket of free hearing protection. It's mandatory. It's not a question. It's not a choice. When I was a young kid, I didn't use any hearing protection. I had tinnitus in my ear and I played in a very loud rock band as a teenager. And I was a drummer, and I was in the middle of these two big giant Marshall stacks, and these guys were blaring at 10, and I lost a bit of my hearing. I went to an ear nose specialist, and he told me that there may be some overall damage done, but you know, for the most part, if you start using your hearing protection then, right now, you could probably save a lot of your hearing, and that was at the age of like 18. All I could say to the kids that are out there, the young musicians that are out there, stick it in your ears, man. You only got one set of ears. You never know until you lose it. That's the thing. And I remember I had a really bad ear infection once, and one side of my ear closed up completely, and I could only hear out of one side of my head. That scared the hell out of me. Protect what you got now, so the more you protect it now, the more you'll have when you get older. And if you're a musician, your hearing is it, man. Your hearing is the game. That's it. You know, that's what it's about. Game over if you can't hear. So you need that.
Other doctors often, they see you, no matter how smart they are, knowledgeable they are, they see you as a patient, they try to evaluate you, and then they get you out the door as quick as possible because they need to move on to the next person. But when you come to Island Better Hearing, it's actually a relationship that's formed over the years, and particularly with Lori, but also with Tara, and even back when I was younger, I used to see Lori's father, who was in the business back when I first started seeing her. And so having that kind of more personal relationship and for them to relate to you on a more compassionate level, a more level of understanding and wanting to do, taking the time out of their day to do everything that they can for you and to give you everything that you need and to make you feel comfortable in what it is that you want is such a stark contrast to so many other doctors out there. That's what Island Better Hearing is all about for me. It's about having a relationship and someone supporting me every step of the way.
Since my position in the community and in my own field requires excellent hearing, which I always had, I was in denial for quite a while about the fact that I wasn't hearing as clearly as I needed to. I just wasn't able to quite accept it. Therefore, it went on longer than I should have. Sometimes it's vanity, and sometimes you don't want to accept the fact that there's something that has changed in one's life. Either sometimes it's according to age or according to some other reason why hearing becomes deficient. So I now advocate, I am an absolute advocate for anyone who needs to have some kind of testing. You don't want to miss out, not only in the arts, but just missing out on just everyday communication.
Hi, I'm Councilman Eugene Cook, speaking today with Dr. Lori Trentacost in regards to the Alliance for Hearing Preservation. Lori, so good to see you.
Thanks, Mr. Cook.
I'm glad you had this time for us.
Thank you.
Tell us about what you're doing.
So the Alliance for Hearing Preservation is a group of community leaders, hearing professionals, other professionals that are dedicated to getting the word out about hearing health and what we can do about it.
Now tell me, what are the problems that you're seeing today?
I've been in the clinic probably for 30 years. So, the things that we see on a daily basis, people experiencing hearing difficulties, communication issues, it's affecting their job, it's affecting their families. And the interesting thing about it is you can be the person that's experiencing the hearing loss, but it's an experience that affects not only the individual, but the family, their coworkers, and there's somewhat of a trickle-down effect to it. There's also a social implication, and it can affect everything from how you communicate and also your physical health. There are new statistics that have come out. We're looking at about 48 million people that are affected by hearing loss. In any way, shape, or form. So you can acquire a hearing loss suddenly. You can have a gradual hearing loss, somewhat due to age. Then those are people that tend to notice it more gradually or don't notice it until it becomes a problem. Hearing loss can be caused by medication and medical conditions. Specifically, hearing loss is one of the is the third largest health issue, and it's neck and neck with diabetes. And what we found over the years is that statistically speaking, people who are diagnosed with many medical conditions also have systemic issues to include hearing loss.
Now, is there anything in regards to technology today? We have such new technology. Does that, affect hearing loss, and specifically into, younger children?
What we're finding is that children are more apt to stay on their phones using an earbud for multiple hours during the day. So they're either listening to shows on their phones, they're listening to music that they're streaming through whatever means, and the amount of time that they're spending on their phones using those earbuds is increasing the incidence of hearing loss in kids. So now we're looking at 1 in 5 teens.
Now, is this a dramatic change in the past 10, 20 years, or is it just a gradual change?
I'm going to say that I would consider it more dramatic in the sense that it's in the forefront more because we're seeing more children complaining about tinnitus or ringing in the ears, and we're seeing the amount of time they're spending on their phones to be greater. So years ago, you would have a flip phone, you would make a phone call, and you'd get off the phone when you were done with that call. Right. Now they're using those phones as a means of,
entertainment, right?
Yeah, entertainment, listening to music, listening to everything from YouTube to different things on the phones that, like an app or something. So interestingly enough, we always thought it was the loudness of the sound that would cause a dramatic difference in your hearing. But what we're also seeing is it doesn't necessarily have to be the loudness of the sound. Sometimes it's the amount of time that you're on that phone or listening to that sound. So length of time, not only loudness of the sound, is now starting to create a greater incidence in hearing issues.
You have been working with representatives to get some laws changed so that we can get hearing for kids from 6th to 12th grade, correct? Because we don't have that now.
Right. Yeah. So when we were kids, you'd get your hearing screening. Every year you'd go in, you get your vision screened, and you get your hearing screened. And essentially, if there was a red flag or if something came up, the school would send a note home. What we're looking to do now at this point is to bring those screenings up into the higher grades. We had talked before about the increase in the incidence of kids with hearing loss and tinnitus. So what we want to be able to do is make sure that we have these baseline hearing screenings so that we can isolate those children that may be at higher risk. The interesting thing about the risk in hearing loss is not only identifying that risk, but there are ramifications to hearing loss, and mainly learning, social implications, and again, once they leave school, in the workplace.
As you're watching this video, you may not realize it, but you may have some kind of hearing loss. If you haven't had your hearing tested in a while, please don't be alarmed. You're not alone. Most people don't get their hearing checked until something significant is truly wrong. Most of us take our hearing for granted. You wake up in the morning and there's sound. It's the first thing you recognize even before you open your eyes, and throughout your day, it's always there. Your alarm clock, sound. Get out of bed, sound. You take a shower, sound. You walk downstairs, you feed the dog, you start your car, you drive to work, meet your boss, call your friends, do your job, read a book, watch TV, argue with the mailman, pour your coffee, shut the door, open your window. Sound is everywhere. In fact, there's more sound around us than what we know what to do with, until it fades away.
Breaking It Down with Frank McKay. This is 103.9 LI News Radio.
I'd like to welcome everyone to our weekly edition of 52 Players. This is Frank McKay, but more importantly, Dr. Lori Trentacost is our very special guest, and she is a champion and a crusader for the hearing impaired here on Long Island. And as you know, each week we identify a power list of folks, and we got Congress people on there and senators and all types of political and business folks. But here is a lady who's trying to help a segment of the population who certainly needs it. Dr. Laura Trentacost, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, Frank. Thanks for welcoming me to your show.
Yeah, well, listen, thrilled to have you, and everything I'm hearing about you is wonderful. Well, I'm sure much has changed since. How much has changed in your field?
Well, there's been a lot of changes. First and foremost, scientifically, we've learned a lot more about the anatomy and physiology. Listen, the anatomy and physiology has been the same forever. But what we're starting to be able to do is isolate certain parts of the anatomy and physiology and look at the systemic effects. So it's not just about your ears, it's not just about the hearing loss, but we look at the comorbidity, how it affects the brain, how it affects the body, your overall health. So that's probably the biggest thing that's changed because of what we're able to learn. And then, of course, there's been an enormous amount of change in technology, hearing aids, assistive technology, cochlear implants, and different ways from a rehabilitation standpoint for hearing impaired people to, integrate more effectively into the community.
Give us something that myself and other lay people could understand. For example, someone who could hear nothing, let's say back in the 60s, is that an issue anymore? Are there folks out there, and again, pardon the ignorance, are there folks out there that just have no hope of hearing? Are there people out there like that?
Well, you know what? There is, and there always is going to be people that have very limited hearing, or hearing that we would say is not measurable with the equipment that we have. Because of the change in technology, and part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing at this point is to educate the population on what is available. There are still many people that are not coming out to be evaluated and are still unaware of what their options are from a communication standpoint, from a technology standpoint. So a lot has changed since the 60s, and the great thing about it is that we can rehabilitate those hearing losses that years ago we were unable to. So that's something that's extremely